If you are considering selling your business and want to make sure you are selling for the most amount of money possible, this video is for you. In this video, I'm covering the 5 overlooked ways to increase the value of your business before you sell. And just for some context, I'm Keegan, founder of Atlantic Coast, and my team and I have helped hundreds of businesses sell and have collectively evaluated and represented over 500 million in lower middle market deals. So let's get into it. So we are covering the 5 overlooked ways to increase your business value before selling. Stop chasing revenue, start building strategic value. And I think this is very true. Most owners leave significant value on the table by focusing only on financial performance instead of strategic positioning. The problem with conventional wisdom: clean books aren't enough. And this is what most advisors will tell you. Get your financials in order, build a nice website, Google reviews, all that kind of stuff. Document your processes, standard operating procedures. And just for the record, I agree with absolutely every one of those. But the reality is that you can still do more. And that can be the difference between you and a competitor that's selling, right? Is that if you take that extra little step, you are just doing that extra little distance to make sure that you're standing out from the rest. The old saying, a horse doesn't win by a mile, it can win by the width of a nose. So what separates a 3.5 multiple from a 4 multiple? Strategic positioning that buyers will pay premiums for. So I like to think of it like an iceberg. Clean books are what's visible above the water. Strategic value drivers are the hidden mass below the surface that influence real value and helps determine your actual multiple. And again, that's helping you, if the industry has a range of a 3 to 4 multiple for SDE. If you don't understand that, watch our valuation video. But, these are the things that help sway somebody to actually pay that 4x multiple versus that 3, versus just clean books and what the numbers generally represent. So strategy number 1, addition by subtraction. And this one is hard to wrap your head around because I've been in the position to do it myself. And we've coached a lot of clients through this and have been a part of this many times. And it really does work, but it's difficult to do. Fire the bottom 15% of your clients, customers, whatever you have. So the trap that most owners fall into is chasing top line revenue, and that creates bloated, low margin businesses, right? So instead of 2.5 million, you want 3.1, but really your margins are even lower because maybe $500,000 worth of that revenue is garbage and coming in with low margins. So the strategic move: identify your bottom 15% of customers, raise their prices 25, 30, 40, 50%, 500%, doesn't really matter. And if they stay, great, your margins went up. And if they drop off, they leave, but your overhead drops. If they're the difficult clients or customers, they drop off. You can even help with employee morale too, right? If, I know that we have had in the past where there's a client that, most of the team can't stand just because they were rude or something like that. And you cut them out and you see employee morale go up. And if someone's coming in to buy your business and they notice that all employees are happy and, everyone's enjoying being there and enjoying doing their work, then, I'd be willing to pay a higher multiple for that. So why buyers pay premiums for this? Proves pricing power. You're not a commodity. Demonstrates operational discipline and shows the business isn't revenue dependent on problem clients. Again, because if they're stepping into your shoes and taking over the business, they are going to feel a lot more comfortable knowing that they're not going to have to deal with all the problem clients because your business is supported by good clients. So here's a real example. We've worked with several clients who prune low margin accounts 6 to 12 months before going to market. The revenue impact is usually modest, 5 to 10% decrease, very accurate, but the margin improvement and the story it tells buyers about the management discipline is significant. It proves you're running a business, not just chasing top line growth. Strategy number 2. The working capital defense. So win the WC or working capital negotiation before it starts. And it is a silent deal killer because the adjustment can cost you as the business owner selling the business $50, $150 plus $1,000 at closing. So how it works: 1, buyers establish a target based on your trailing 12-month average of inventory plus accounts receivable. At closing, if your working capital is below, you write a check. If it's above target, they write you a check, which, let's be honest, that rarely happens. So the strategic move, 12 months before selling, is aggressively collect all receivables, liquidate slow-moving inventory. That is one that not many business owners do. Clear out the inventory, get rid of it. It's less of a hassle when it's time to sell the business. Lower your baseline average. And the payoff, a $50,000 reduction in your average net working capital requirements equals $50,000 more cash in your pocket after close. Strategy number 3, the unopened gift. So sell the roadmap, not just the history. This is very important because when someone's looking at buying a business, the history is what defines, what the value of the company is and what the new owner should expect to take home from the business, how much, free working capital they have to reinvest back in the business, maybe new marketing, things like that. But what they also want to see is that the business has potential to grow. And if it's proven, that's even better. So the buyer's fear, the business has already peaked under the current owner. And that's a very realistic fear. And we always try to coach people that, hey, when you buy a company, no matter how good it looks on paper, if you're doing some financial projections, plan for a 10% revenue drop for the first 6 months, just to be on the safe side. I mean, hopefully, it's a 10, 20, 30% profit boost. But, if you can make the numbers work with a slight decline for the first 6 months, because there's a learning curve to every business, then you're going to feel a lot more comfortable going into it. So the strategic move is create a validated but unexecuted growth opportunity. So here's what that looks like. Launch a small pilot program. So it could be a new service line, geographic expansion. Maybe you start doing a little bit of marketing in a nearby city or something like that, or just a new channel or a new avenue of revenue. Spend $5,000 to $10,000 to prove the ROI with real data. So $5,000 to $10,000. I mean, it's going to vary by business, but the most important part is spend what you need to spend to be able to collect usable data and get valuable insights. You pause the execution and it included in your marketing materials as a turnkey growth opportunity. So when you can come to them and say, look, here's the history of what we've been doing. Here's a new program that we tested. Here's all the data that says that it's working. If you spend $10,000, you're going to get, $15,000 in revenue, or, so on and so forth. And you put that in your marketing material and just say, hey, we haven't done this yet, but here's what you could do from day one to increase this and help take some of that that new debt service that you have from the business loan, take some of that burden away. And why this works: removes buyers' fear about the growth ceiling, proves management team can innovate, and typically adds 0.5 to 1x to your multiple. Absolutely. Hands down is one of the most valuable things that you can do for your business. So here's a real example. An HVAC contractor tested a new service offering, total investment about $8,500, proved the concept worked with existing crew and generated 42% margins, which was great. It was actually beating their average margins. They documented the process, scaled it for 6 months, proving that it wasn't just a one-off or a fluke, it was continued growth, and included in their marketing materials. Did it directly add X amount of dollars to the price? That's really hard to quantify, but it did give them a stronger negotiating position when the buyer tried to push for a lower multiple, citing a limited growth runway. So, when the buyer came to them and said, hey, we want to pay you 3.5 and we wanted 4x for the business, we were able to say, look, your justification for the lower multiple isn't accurate. Here's the exact roadmap and the exact blueprint that you need to grow this. Number 4, turn data into a strategic moat. So this can go for anybody. So everything that you do is data that somebody else wants. Believe me, I know. So stop being just a service business or anything else and become a data company as well. So the mindset shift: your customer data, operational metrics, and market intelligence have standalone value. The strategic move is audit your CRM. So, make sure that you are keeping clean records of your client relationship management systems and things like that. Organize customer behavior patterns, buying cycles, failure rates. That can be things like return rates, all those kind of things. Support tickets. It can be a variety of different things. And create clean dashboards showing market intelligence. So this is basically just saying, take that data, put it all together in a nice package that you can present to them just to be able to say, look, we actually do collect the data and we use this data to make educated decisions about the path that we take the business. And now you can do the same thing. So why strategic buyers pay premiums? Competitors want your market data. Private equity firms want predictive analytics, and strategic acquirers pay for proprietary intelligence, not just cash flow. And the categories that benefit most: service businesses with repeat customers, manufacturers with supply chain data and good vendor data, things like that, and B2B companies with enterprise sales cycles. Strategy number 5, the landmine sweeper. So the clause that kills deals and how to fix it now. Here's the nightmare scenario. You have a full price offer, then discover your top vendor won't transfer their contract to the new owner. The hidden danger: change of control clauses in vendor agreements, leases, and key contracts. The strategic move, and do this now if you want to sell anytime in the next 3 years. Review your top 5 to 10 contracts for change of control language. Probably best to have an M&A attorney or just a general business attorney take a look with you. Renegotiate during routine renewals. So before a sale is ever even discussed, renegotiate to make sure that that language is accurate and doesn't make the sale any more difficult than it needs to be. And get assignability language or written pre-approval. So you don't even have to tell them that, like, hey, I'm thinking about listing the business. Just, hey, if something happens, the world's a crazy place, life happens. I want to be able to, a written pre-approval from you that this contract or this lease can transfer. So contracts to check, commercial leases, equipment leases, key vendor agreements, franchise agreements, major customer contracts, and there's a ton of others. Just check your agreements. Deal killer statistics. Contract assignment issues are one of the most common deal killers in the 30 to 90 day due diligence period, and they're almost always preventable with advanced planning. So a real world example of this that happened to us not that long ago was we were helping an acquisition client, purchase a restaurant. We had sold their business about 6 months earlier, and they came back to us and wanted to find something new. So we found them this restaurant to buy. Everything checked out, did the due diligence, everything's looking good, talked to the landlord at the time. They weren't willing to reassign the lease, but they were willing to do a brand new lease, so not a problem at all. Go through the process, SBA loan, and kind of get to that kind of final make or break stage, and the parent company that owned the landlord company that owned this specific commercial real estate space decided that they no longer wanted a restaurant there. And it threw a wrench into the entire operation. It made it very difficult. It was a huge company, so it was very difficult to get a hold of anybody. And we had to go through a couple different, back doors to find the right person to talk to and just say, hey, do you want the space to sit empty because this guy's selling or he's retiring and he's going to exit, or you can give my client a chance to come in here and sign maybe just a 3-year lease. And we can get this thing going. And that person was very agreeable. And, that worked its way down the chain and got back to the landlord, who sent over a new lease agreement that had it was a 5-year lease with a option to renew for an additional 5 years. So we were set. But it just goes to show how difficult and how unexpected some of these assignability clauses and things like that can be when trying to buy or sell a business. So, and here's a bonus strategy. So pre-package your management team. Solve the buyer's number one fear before they ask. Here's the strategic move. Generate a management retention plan before you go to market. So identify 1, 2, maybe up to like 5 is probably the cap of key team members. Structure stay bonuses, and those stay bonuses don't have to come from your own pocket. Those stay bonuses can trigger when the business is sold. So you just use the funds or the proceeds from the sale of the business to pay out these stay bonuses. Communicate the plan before the LOI stage. So you want to make sure that's, understood by the employees that, hey, in the event something does happen and when I do want to retire, that this stay bonus is, going to be in place for you. Here's kind of the stipulations around it. Have them sign off, have everything documented. And at the end of the day, you hand the buyer a very stable, motivated team that they don't have to worry about the key employees leaving from day one because they weren't expecting the sale. Here's something that happens a lot of times when a business is sold, if you're not careful, is that it's a time for not only you as the owner to sell the business and kind of move on with your life, but it's a time for a lot of your key people in your business to kind of reflect on where they're at in life. And some people say, hey, maybe I need a career change. Maybe I should go work for X competitor company. Maybe it's time that, I feel like I'm undervalued or underpaid. So maybe it's time to get out there and start looking for a better opportunity. And so what these stay bonuses and stay structure do is allow you to combat that way ahead of time and figure out, hey, is someone actually a flight risk? And at the end of the day, it just gives a buyer a lot more confidence to make sure that, when they step into your shoes, that they're going to have the same team and support that you did as a business owner for X amount of years. And so here's the payoff. Removes the buyer's biggest risk factor. Can increase your multiple 0.5 to 1.5x. Absolutely. Depending on how the business is structured as far as, Is it owner dependent, or are you kind of a absentee owner and it's run by key employees? Then that stay bonus is absolutely critical and makes seller financing less scary for both parties. So here's a structure example. If you stay 12 months post-close, you'll receive 2 to 3% of the final sale price, funded from proceeds, but communicated to team pre-sale. And this can be split up, right? So if you have 3 people, you can say, look, I'm going to put 5% of the net proceeds from the sale into a bucket, and it's going to get distributed to you guys 33%, or however you want to do it. So here's the bottom line. Valuation isn't just math, it's strategy. These 5 strategies can increase your exit value by 10 to 30%. Most owners spend decades building businesses, then leave hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, on the table because they didn't prepare strategically. The difference between a 3x and a 5x multiple isn't just revenue growth, it's risk reduction and strategic positioning. Ready to find out what your business is actually worth? Get your free confidential valuation range assessment at Atlantic Coast Business Advisors. If you are considering potentially selling in the future and want to make sure you're getting the most out of that sale, then book a consulting call with someone in our team down below. I would also recommend watching the video on the screen now, which breaks down step by step the exact process that we recommend for selling your business. See you there. Peace.